Divine Grace, A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Translation: The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, "Now hear, O son of Pritha, how by practicing yoga in full consciousness of me, with mind attached to me, you can know me in full, free from doubt." Purport: In the 7th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, the nature of Krishna consciousness is fully described. Krishna is full in all opulences, and how he manifests such opulences is described herein. Also, 4 kinds of fortunate people have become attached to Krishna, and 4 kinds of unfortunate people who never take to Krishna are described in this chapter. In the first 6 chapters of Bhagavad Gita, the living entity has been described as non-material spirit soul capable of elevating himself to self-realization by different types of yogas. At the end of the 6th chapter, it has been clearly stated that the steady concentration of the mind upon Krishna, or in other words, Krishna consciousness, is the highest form of all yoga. By concentrating one's mind upon Krishna, one is able to know the absolute truth completely, but not otherwise. Impersonal Brahma Jyoti or localized Paramatma realization is not perfect knowledge of the absolute truth because it is partial. Full and scientific knowledge is Krishna, and everything is revealed to the person in Krishna consciousness. In complete Krishna consciousness, one knows that Krishna is ultimate knowledge beyond any doubts. Different types of yoga are only stepping stones on the path of Krishna consciousness. One who takes directly to Krishna consciousness automatically knows about Brahma Jyoti and Paramatma in full. By practice of Krishna consciousness yoga, one can know everything in full, namely the absolute truth, the living entities, the material nature, and their manifestations with paraphernalia. One should therefore begin yoga practice as directed in the last verse of the 6th chapter. Concentration of the mind upon Krishna, the Supreme, is made possible by prescribed devotional service in 9 different forms, of which Shravanam is the first and most important. The Lord therefore says to Arjuna, "Tat Shrinu," or hear from me. No one can be a greater authority than Krishna. And therefore, by hearing from him, one receives the greatest opportunity to become a perfectly Krishna conscious person. One has therefore to learn from Krishna directly, or from a pure devotee of Krishna, and not from a non-devotee upstart, puffed up with academic education. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, this process of understanding Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Absolute Truth, is described in the 2nd chapter of the 1st canto as follows. Shanavadam swagata Krishna punya shravana kirtanah hridayantasto hi abhadrani vidunoti sukrit satam nashtaprayeshu abhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya Bhagavati ruttama shloke bhaktir bhavati naishtiki tada rajastamo bhavaha kamalobhadayaschaye chetayete ranavidam stitam sattve prasiddhati evam prasanna manaso bhagavad bhakti yogatah bhagavat tattva vijnanam mukta sangasya chayate vidyate hridaya grantis chidyante sarva samshayah kshiyante cha asya karmani drishta evatmanishware. To hear about Krishna from Vedic literatures or to hear from him directly through the Bhagavad Gita is self-righteous activity. And for one who hears about Krishna, Lord Krishna, who is dwelling in everyone's heart, acts as a best wishing friend and purifies the devotee who constantly engages in hearing of him. In this way, a devotee naturally develops his dormant transcendental knowledge. As he hears more about Krishna from the Bhagavatam and from the devotees, he becomes fixed in the devotional service of the Lord. By development of devotional service, one becomes freed from the modes of passion and ignorance, and thus material lusts and avarice are diminished. When these impurities are wiped away, the candidate remains steady in his position of pure goodness, becomes enlivened by devotional service, and understands the science of God properly. This Bhakti Yoga severs the hard knot of material affection and enables one to come at once to the stage of Asamshayam Samagram, understanding the supreme absolute truth, personality of Godhead. Therefore, only by hearing from Krishna or from his devotees in Krishna consciousness, one can understand the science of Krishna. Om Tat Sat. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. So, Tat Shunu, Krishna is telling, hear from me, ordering Arjuna, Asamsayam Samagram Mam Yata Jnasasi Tat Shunu. Here, hearing is a very, very important function. We have 5 senses and we have 5 working senses. They are called Karma Indriyas and Jnana Indriyas. Jnanendriyas are the 5 knowledge acquiring senses. They are the eyes, ears, nose, tongue, touch, like that. And then there is a karma indriya, your walking capacity, your reproducing capacity, your digesting capacity, like that. Out of these jnanendriyas and karma indriyas, the ear, hearing, is the most important. Prabhupada also mentions that out of all these, the most difficult to control is the tongue. Out of the most difficult to control is the tongue, and the most important is the ears. Through the ears, we get knowledge about ourselves, about the reality, about the truth, about the Supreme Lord Krishna. So in the Garuda Purana, Prabhupada says that it is mentioned that a person in the material world, a soul in the material world, is actually in its sleeping state, like bitten by a snake, bitten by the maya of this material world. It boom goes into a sleeping state as though drugged. But the only way to wake up a sleeping person is through sound. That is why we rely in the morning on an alarm clock to get up, or somebody to come and say, hey, get up, wake up. Sound wakes up us from our sleep. Similarly, transcendental sound wakes up the sleeping soul. The sleeping soul, Jeev jago, Gora Chandra bole, Kota Nidra, Javo Maya, Pishachira Kole. You're sleeping on the lap of Maya, completely forgotten who you are. And when you hear transcendental sound coming from the Vedas, coming from the instruction of Krishna, as in Bhagavad Gita, immediately the soul will wake up. Just like you wake up from your physical sleep with the sound of the alarm, transcendental sound vibration will wake up the soul, right? So what happens if the soul actually wakes up? It wakes up to reality. Knowledge, he gets through the ears. That's why it's mentioned Shruti. The Vedas are called Shruti. Shruti means to hear. Knowledge is heard and understood. That's why we are given 2 ears. One mouth. Listen more, speak less. Listen more, speak less is a sutra. But nowadays, we keep blabbering a lot on the phone, on this, on that, to everybody. There's a lot of blabbering. So, hearing is so important, and hearing the right subject matter is important. Otherwise, you don't wake up, you go to sleep even more. If you hear the wrong stuff, It put you to sleep. Kota nidra jao maya pishachira kole. It is mentioned that Maya is keeping you on the lap and making you hear material sound vibration so that you'll go deeper into the sleep. Not allowing you very much to hear transcendental sound. But if you get to hear transcendental sound, you'll wake up. Hey, what's this? Where am I? What am I doing here? Who am I? When did I come here? Where should I go? You'll start asking all these questions because you wake up. You know, if you wake up and suddenly find, what is this going on here? We are completely in a dream state. That's explained very nicely in the Bhagavad Gita and in many other places. We are not awakened spiritually at all. So, ears are very important to actually get to know and get some information about where am I, what am I doing. And once you wake up, you start acting in that direction. So that's why it's mentioned out of all the senses, the ear is most important. The most difficult to control, of course, is the tongue, it is mentioned. Eating and vibrating and saying all sorts of things and getting into trouble. So we like to use the ears for our gratification very much. We like to hear good music. Wow, put the earphones and then get lost in it. You can see all the youngsters have got earphones and walking on the road and everywhere. I was giving some program in the universities in America. I saw that everybody is having their earphones, they're this thing, and they're jogging, everything with that. Full of people, everybody with the earphones and earpods. And so everybody likes to hear music, hear something nice, hear something useful. And there is no limit to what all you can hear nowadays. And more than anything, I like to hear if you talk about me. My name is very sweet for me to hear. Wow. Did you say me? I mean, did you talk about me? Did you call out my name, please? Hungry to hear. All the politicians are very, very happy if they hear on the stage their glories given by another person. Everybody likes to hear sweet things. So I don't want to discuss all the things that you can hear, and everybody is busy hearing already. So many things. Bhurini bhuri karmani shrotavyadini vibhagasha. There are so many things in this world to hear and read and understand. But the problem is, what is actually happening to you when you hear sound vibration that is transcendental and sound vibration that is of this material world? It's very, very different, powerfully different. There's a Japanese scientist who did experiments on sound vibrations on water. And he showed rearrangement of molecules and very wonderful patterns forming when you have good things to say and you have nice sattvic music, and how it arranged itself when something was passionate, anger, lust, greed type of talk was given. It arranged itself in a different disturbing pattern. So he proved that vibration of the sound has got its own deep effects. And you know that the body is like more than 70-80% water. And it has an effect. Even materially, they have researched. The type of sound you hear has got a tremendous effect, right? So we should hear that thing which is very useful to us, and lots of it within our lifetime. That's why Prabhupada is saying here, Tat Shrunu. Krishna is telling you, you should hear about Krishna, should hear about his pastimes, hear Bhagavad Gita, should hear the Srimad Bhagavatam. You should fill your ears, yat karnanadin geharatim chindanti. Fill your ears with topics of the absolute truth about transcendental vibration, and gradually you will wake up spiritually. Completely you will wake up. This is a secret. This is the reason why the Vedas are called Shruti, because therein lies inside there the secret about the supreme absolute truth. When you hear about the supreme absolute truth, Krishna, magic happens to you, right? So that's why in history we see many people were advised to hear. They were asked to hear. Tat Shunu, Krishna is saying, listen, hear what I say. And therefore it's an order that if we listen to Bhagavad Gita, spoken by Krishna, or Prabhupada says, spoken by his dear devotees, then wonderful things can happen to you. Right? So there's this ancient story which I always spoken about here and there, about King Vikramaditya from our lands. You know, Vikramaditya was a very powerful ruler, and Vikram and Vetal, you will hear this, a lot of these stories and all that. So in his kingdom, suddenly on one day when he was meeting with his ministers, a massive Rakshasa, giant of a person entered, all of a sudden from nowhere. And he had skulls hanging on his body. And then he took a bunch of these skulls and threw them. And it went sliding down the floor and hit the Simhasana, the throne of the king. King was a little disturbed with this person suddenly appearing. And he said, my dear king, I seek. You are the king. You are Dharma Raja. And you must know the Dharma very well. And therefore I challenge you. I want you to pick up the best skull out of this and give it to me. In 24 hours, tomorrow I'll come at the same time. If you have not done, I will eat up all of you. I'm hungry. All these are skulls of kings whom I have challenged this question with, and they have not been able to answer. I eat you up. And then he said, I'm leaving. Boom, he left. The king did not know what to do. Vikramaditya. He looked at his ministers. One of his ministers was a very sharp and intelligent person. And he asked him, what is this? What am I supposed to do? Tell me. And all the other ministers were looking here and there. They didn't know what to do. This intelligent minister just looked at the king and said, let's think about it. There is time. There's 24 hours. We'll think about it. Don't worry. We'll find a solution. My dear king, you don't worry. I'm here to help you. He sounded very confident. So they dispersed quickly and said, find out. And all of the other ministers discussed, went here and there, researched, and did all sorts of things. And in the evening, the king inquired again. He said, don't worry, I'll have the answer tomorrow. This minister said, go to sleep peacefully, king. Don't worry. It's nothing big. So, no, tell me. No, I don't have it now. Tomorrow I'll tell you. So what do you mean? He come, don't worry. So he went to sleep. The king could not sleep, couldn't get the answer properly. So the next morning, boom, the Rakshasa appeared at the right time. Have you got my answer, O king? I want to hear from you. And the king just looked at his ministers and said, and the other three ministers, didn't know what to say. And the king looked, come on. In front of the Rakshasa, he said, and this minister, my dear king, this Rakshasa needs an answer, which I'm going to give you. It's very simple. He has thrown these things at you to test you. What he means is that what you say as instruction is heard by all of us. Because we know you hear from the rishis and sages and conduct yourself properly. Right? In the same way, you hear, you know, you tell, we hear. One who hears through one ear and takes it out through the other ear is a useless follower of you. That skull which has gone through this side and come out of this side is useless. The next, number 2, is that person who hears and then speaks. He's better. He hears and then he speaks. And the third, my dear king, is really the skull that you should spot. That person who has heard and who has turned it into his heart and brought a change in his heart. From the ears to the heart. From there, he speaks to people. That is the best type of hearing. that skull will be useful skull for this Rakshasa. Boom, the Rakshasa disappeared immediately with the skulls. And the king was very surprised. What happened to him? He has got the right answer. He has left. He did not devour you. The king was very surprised. Explain this to me. And he explained to the importance of hearing. How hearing is so important. You should hear and you should transform it to your heart. And you will develop love for the Lord. And when you develop love for the Lord, you don't have to worry about anybody. You're exposed to the truth. So you'll see stories of what Krishna is saying here. Tatshanu. You'll see many, many stories. The meaning of it is, most people don't hear fully. Right? In Hindi, they say, is kaan se sunke, is kaan se bahar nikalne ka hai. In the kaadalirinde, apra andha kaadalirinde velila. In Tamil, they will say. They just hear and they don't want to retain anything. Some of them are interested in hearing because they want to speak it out to others. And tell people that I know this, you see. Cut and paste. Hearing, speaking, cutting and pasting. Which we're very good at. All over the internet, we can get all sorts of stuff everywhere. We cut and paste and make this thing together nowadays. It doesn't run through the system. They don't try to understand fully. Some do, not everybody. But cut and paste has become very popular. You can, do your project work. You just have to cut and paste from the internet. And you can do a fantastic project work. So it's short circuit. But those who hear and do Shravanam, Mananam, Nididhyasanam, who actually hear Shravanam, then Mananam, they think about it. What does this mean? Why is it mentioned like this? They even put down some thoughts about it and they rotate it and see from different angles what it is. Then even discuss it with somebody else. What do you think about this? Why is it mentioned like this? Does it mean this? Does it mean that? This way they mananam, nidhi dhyasanam. Then from the ocean nidhi, right? They are able to grasp the understanding because they start actually doing some things and they get a realization of it. That is called even higher benefit of hearing. They start acting. It changes them. Hearing is so powerful. If you hear very carefully, think about it, analyze it, it stays in your head. And then it can get into your heart and it can actually change your heart. So this is the meaning of that. The real hearing is heart change. That's the story which we hear in many places. People who have heard and changed. The great story of Parikshit Maharaja in Bhagavatam. He became expert in Shravanam, hearing, and he became liberated simply by hearing nicely. Parikshit is a wonderful personality described in the Srimad Bhagavatam. The whole Bhagavatam is spoken because of him only. He is the chief reason for the Bhagavatam being spoken. Parikshit is the son of Abhimanyu, who is the son of Arjuna. He's like the great-grandson of Arjuna, you can say, his son's son. Uttara is his mother. And Uttara is the wife of Abhimanyu. Abhimanyu died very young on the battlefield. Abhimanyu is the son of Arjuna. So, Uttara, when she was pregnant, she had the last descendant of the Pandavas was in her womb. Others were killed. It's a big story of Ashwatthama killed all the 5 children of Draupadi at the end of the war. So he even sent a Brahmastra to kill that child in the womb. So she ran to Krishna and said, they sent the Brahmastra on me. I don't mind dying, but I don't want my child to die. Please save my child. Since she went and begged to Krishna, pahi mahayogin. She goes and says, save me, Yogeshwara, Krishna. So Krishna consoles her and don't worry. Actually, he enters the womb of Uttara. He neutralizes the Brahmastra which comes. And Parikshit Maharaj in his young day, inside the womb, sees the Lord in his four-handed form walking up and down. Right in the womb as a fetus, Parikshit saw the Supreme Lord inside the womb of his mother. That's why when he came out, he was putting everybody to test and saying, is it the person I saw in the womb? His name became Parikshit. It's a great personality. Krishna gave him darshan even before he was born inside the womb, because he is a very important person in something that's going to happen. So Parikshit was born and he became installed in the throne, and all the Pandavas retired and left. So he was a king. He was the last of the wonderful great Rajarishi kings, because he was a devotee of Krishna. And then he was known very famous and he was very strong in his principles and in instituting things in the kingdom. He was the emperor of the whole world. Even it seems Kali Yuga entered. He stopped Kali from entering. The Bhagavatam describes. He told Kali, I'll kill you. Don't you dare enter. Don't you dare do these type of things to Dharma. And then there was a big conversation and all. So he was very powerful. So one fine day he went hunting. Look at what happens. One fine day he went hunting. The Kshatriyas do that. When there is no war, they keep fit. Then they bring the animals and offer it in sacrifice and all that they do. He went hunting alone and they went into the forest with his chariot, and then he became very hungry, very thirsty, chasing animals and everything, got lost inside. So he came upon to drink some water somewhere. He came to Samika Rishi's ashram. He came to Samika Rishi's ashram and he found that Samika Rishi is in a trance, completely deeply in another world in his meditation. So he said, excuse me, some water to drink. Is there some fruit, something you can give me? I'm very hungry. Emperor of the whole world is come. Samika Rishi was in trance. So he got very disturbed for some reason. He got very disturbed. I'm so desperate. I'm the emperor of the whole world. I've got so many things to do. I'm asking for some water. Something happened to him. He took a dead snake from there with his bow and put it around the neck of Samika Rishi, who was in trance. And he said, this is what you deserve. I'll give you a garland of a dead snake. You don't want to attend to he just became angry. Kshatriya. He left the chariot. As he went back home and then he started easing himself, he said, what did I do? Why did I put the dead snake around Rishi's neck? I never do such things. What made me do that? And he was wondering. He was wondering, some force, something. And then the news spread. Samika Rishi's son, young son, Shringi, 5-year-old boy, he heard that this king has come and insulted my father, who's such a great person, a Rishi, a sage. How dare he do that? He became very angry. And in his place where he was away from his father in a Gurukula, he went to the river, took water, and then he cursed this king to die within 7 days. Parikshit should die within 7 days. It was a very wrong thing he did. Brahmanas have got that power those days. So he utilized his power and said, I can't bear insult to my father, who is, so dear to me. So then he went home and his father said, what have you done, my son? This is not at all correct. You should never do this. Parikshit is a king of the world. He's an emperor. He's, nothing wrong in what you should not do this. It's wrong. There's not. So it is mentioned that he made a big mistake. And his father consoled him, taught him good this thing. But what to do, what is done is done. And Parikshit came to hear about it, that the son of Samika Rishi has cursed you. You would die in 7 days. Actually, he's such a powerful king. He could have taken his army and he could have gone and met that Shringi and finished him and taken back the curse. He could have done many things. And he had many people to help him to do that. But he didn't do that. He said, something is up and coming. Because why did I do this and why this person is cursing me? There's something else happening here. He knew something providential is happening. So he waited and he thought, And he said, okay, it's time for me to renounce the whole kingdom and prepare myself for death within 7 days. What should I do within 7 days? So he left the house, left his kingdom, left his family, left his treasury, left his military soldiers and everything. All of a sudden, he became completely renounced and left to the forest with just minimum clothing. That's all. And there, the whole world came to know Parikshit Maharaj, emperor of the world, has been cursed, and he has renounced his kingdom and gone to the forest, to the bank of the Ganges. Wow, because he's so famous. He's Yudhishthira Maharaja's grandson. So everybody started coming from different parts of the universe to see him on the bank of the Ganges. Why? What happened? How did it happen? Why did you decide like this? What are you going to do? You're cursed. Big news, big news. So everybody went to the bank of the Ganges. And there, he asked everybody, tell me what I'm supposed to do. 7 days time. I want to perfect my life. I have 7 days time. And then they were discussing it. At that time appeared the famous Shukadeva Goswami. Shukadeva appeared there. Shukadeva was a 16-year-old boy having a complexion like Krishna with beautiful hair. He was naked, Digambara. And he appeared there, sent by Krishna and by wonderful arrangement. As soon as everybody saw him, they paid obeisances to him. Very young and brilliant looking, full of tejas. He appeared there in the assembly of the sages, and everybody paid obeisances, and Parikshit surrendered to him. And he said, this has happened to me. What should a person do in this situation, my dear sage? Please tell me. And he gave him a seat. In the audience was Shukadeva Goswami's father, Vyasadev, and his father, Parashara Muni, Narada Muni. Everybody was there. All the famous sages had gathered there because Parikshit was a very dear devotee of the Lord. And this has happened to him. And therefore, everybody had assembled there. So they gave him a seat and he started speaking the Srimad Bhagavatam. This is how Bhagavatam was spoken. And Parikshit was so happy. He kept asking question after question after question. It's mentioned for 7 days, 7 nights, continuously question answer session went on. No eating, no drinking, water, nothing they did. They were so absorbed in Krishna Katha and hearing. And Parikshit was so happy. And Shukadeva Goswami was very happy to answer these questions that he was asking. Why did Krishna do this? Why did this happen like this? Tell me about this. Tell me about that. You will see the beautiful questions. And he's mining all that nectar. And Shukadeva Goswami will speak and speak and speak for 7 days. In between, to help Parikshit, all the demigods will come. And they'll tell him, hey, don't worry. Just a curse. We will keep this Amrita. You drink this, you'll never die. You'd ask us, we are called Amara, we don't die. You could have asked us, we'll tell you. And Parikshit said, thank you. This Amrita is nothing compared to the Amrita through the years that I'm drinking now about Krishna. I don't want any disturbance from you. So they were surprised, what? I'm giving you life and you're not interested. He said, no, I'm not interested. This nectar is far greater. In this way, for 7 days he spoke, and it is mentioned that according to the curse, Takshaka, the snake will come and bite him. At the end of it, Shukadeva Goswami told him, don't be silly. Don't think I'm going to die. The body will die. You will never die. You should go back to Krishna, sing the glories of the Lord. In this way, Shukadeva Goswami became so immersed and absorbed that he didn't even feel that Takshaka came and bit him. Even before Takshaka bit him, he had already liberated himself. This is a beautiful story of the Bible. I have crunched it a lot. In the Bhagavad, it speaks about this wonderful story. And he went back to Godhead. Simply by hearing, throughout he heard. He just simply heard. That's why I tell our devotees many times, especially the newcomers here, simply hear Prabhupada's lectures that you will get online. Simply hear, simply read the Bhagavad Gita. Just chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Whenever you have time, fill your ears with vibration of Krishna, Krishna Katha. Krishna is saying this. Katayantas chamam nityam tushyanti cha ramanti cha. My devotees, they actually do this. They hear me, hear about me. Katayantas chamam, Krishna Katha they hear. Nityam, always. Tushyanti, they become very satisfied. Tushyanti cha, ramanti cha, they enjoy so much hearing. Because the soul really wakes up when start hearing about Krishna. Really wakes up and start hearing about my Father, my affectionate Supreme Father. This is revival, awakening of the soul. So you become more and more and increasingly attracted to hear about Krishna. So that's why we tell everybody, utilize these ears. Many people have, problem with hearing nowadays, especially. Many people are hard of hearing. Some are born deaf. I wonder sometimes, oh gosh, what unfortunate thing. They can never hear Krishna Katha from the young age. But I am amazed to see that I have, last time I went, in the Deaf and Dumb Society, we are actually preaching Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavad, and through sign language, they are learning it. We had a demonstration of one of them coming in. They have developed signs for all these terminologies, and they are all enjoying Bhagavad and Bhagavad Gita, and they all become devotees. So it is a soul-to-soul conversation, actually. It's so powerful hearing and chanting the holy name of the Lord. Similarly, you have many stories like this about the guru speaking to the disciple about the supreme absolute truth, and then the disciple getting free of all these problems and everything, the wrong conception about ourselves, wrong ID we have. We suffer so much in this prison house of this body and the mind. We really get a lot of suffering. But when we hear about the absolute truth, about Krishna, this shackles actually weaken and fall down, and you become a free person, filled with love for the Lord. This is explained in the Srimad Bhagavatam very nicely. It works. And many people all over the world completely involve and immerse themselves in hearing the Bhagavatam, hearing Krishna Katha, worshipping the Lord, chanting the holy names. They spend all their time doing this alone. They don't require any social media. They require only this transcendental media, Krishna media. And they occupy themselves all over the world, not just anywhere in India alone. All over the world, all sorts of nationalities, people are hearing Krishna Katha in their own language. And our Bhagavad Gita is translated in more than 90 languages now, 87 to 90 languages. And they are hearing it. Amazing. So wherever anybody hears this, it's got a powerful effect. It's got a powerful effect, right? So actually, I tell people that actually the greater pandemic is the fact that we are all sleeping. That Maya pandemic can be broken by the vaccine of hearing Bhagavad Gita through the ears, Krishna Katha. That's why Krishna is saying, Tashunu, asamshayam samagram mam. Without a doubt, you will know completely about me if you hear what I tell you, right? So we pay a lot of importance to hearing from the right person. We should hear always from a pure devotee of the Lord. That's why we insist that you hear from Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, his followers who are strictly adhering to his instructions. You can hear like that, and then you will see that you become interested, and gradually you will wake up and you can feel the awakening. You can feel the lightening, right? The process works wonderfully, right? So hearing is very, very important. Hearing is very important. So we are very happy that we have ears and they function very well. And we have brain between our ears who can analyze and understand things. And we should utilize this time to hear Krishna Katha. That is why these books should be read. The Bhagavatam, in the Padma Purana, there's also mention about the great story of Dundukari and Gokarna. How Dundukari was a brother of Gokarna. Gokarna was a great Bhagavatam reciter, and his brother was a horrible rake and a completely, useless guy. Became a debauchee, a dacoit, and everything. There's a beautiful story. I can't go into the details, for lack of time. But he begs, he dies and he becomes a Brahma Rakshasa, a ghost hanging around in the same house. And Gokarna travels and becomes a great Bhagavata reciter and comes back to the same village, his house. And he says that I want to sleep in my house. They all tell him that don't, there's a ghost Brahma Rakshasa there. So what? I don't mind. I'll chant the Bhagavatam. So he sleeps there in the night. He meets with his brother as a ghost and he sees his sorry plight. And he tells him, I'll be reciting the Bhagavatam, come and listen. And that is the best way for you to get relieved. Believe me, my dear brother, it will happen to you. And he had no other go but to listen to his brother. So the story goes that for 7 days, he stayed in that tree and kept hearing and gave a signal to his brother by breaking a branch of the tree every day. I'm sitting here, I'm hearing. And he heard so intently, attentively. At the end of the 7th day, from Vaikunta, a whole airship came, and this Dundukari, the brother, became liberated from his condition in a 4-handed form. He climbed into the thing and paid his obeisance from there to Gokarna, and he was taken back to Vaikunta. It's very amazing. Then others also watched, some of them said, wow, what's happening here? And then he went away. And then Gokarna explained, this is my brother. I met him. You told me the house is haunted. And I told him to come and sit in the Bhagavatam recital that I'm doing. And if he hears carefully, he'll be freed from his position. It so happened, he heard me and he followed very carefully. He heard and he has been liberated. He heard fully. And all the other people who are listening say, what about us? We also heard. Then I told him, you did not hear so intently like Dundukari heard. Every second he was hearing, completely absorbed. Right? So it's mentioned that Sushushubhis Takshanat. If you hear carefully and if you hear attentively, that moment you will get your purification and you can become totally liberated from this condition. These are amazing stories mentioned. There are many more. So that's why we pay importance. Prabhupada told us to sit and hear Bhagavad. Every morning we hear Bhagavad for 1.5 hours after the morning Mangalarti. Every morning we spend time 1.5 hours chanting Hare Krishna. And then immediately we hear Bhagavad. In the evening we have Bhagavad Gita discourse. In between also the devotees read and try to keep in touch. So nowadays with all the social media and the devices and gadgets available, it's very easy for us to take Prabhupada's lectures and keep them and hear it and take down notes. And whenever we are free, we should chant Hare Krishna, we should hear Prabhupada's lecture, we should read. You'll see you'll not have enough time to do any other nonsense. You'll become so absorbed and so interested that it'll draw you inside further and further. And it's very good. That's the way to use the 2 years. They are meant for that purpose. They are meant for hearing from the Vedas. They are meant for hearing Bhagavad Gita, the instructions of Krishna. They are meant for hearing the holy name. If you do that, you will be the most successful in your human form of life. Om Tat Sat, Hare Krishna. So I've invited you today to use your ears properly. Ear. Here, right? So I hope that we can all get together. Shanavatam Swakatha Krishna Punya Shavana Kirtana Hridiyantastohi Abhadrani Vidunoti Sukrit Satam. Very beautiful shloka from the Bhagavatam says, Shanavatam Swakatha Krishna. If you hear Krishna Katha, Punya Shavana Kirtana, if you do this hearing, Shavanam, Kirtan of the Lord. Hridiyantastohi abhadrani. All the dirty things in the heart will get cleared. Vidunoti suhrit satam. You will actually in the association of wonderful devotees. If you do that, your heart will be cleansed and you'll become a pure personality, pure soul. You go back to Godhead. That is guaranteed in the Bhagavatam. So I thought I will end with this shloka. Om Tat Sat, Hare Krishna. If you have any questions or comments, we will try our best to answer them for you. Okay? Any question or comment? Why did Parikshit put snake on the sage? Actually, he was what you call very tired. He did not know what he was doing. He was a little desperate. That's the physical reason given. Other reason given is that he was for that moment bewildered purposely so that he will do this. And it will happen in this way and the Bhagavatam will be revealed and he'll go back to Godhead. It was Krishna's plan. It's also mentioned by great acharyas. So he got drawn into it because he was a great devotee. Krishna drew into him and the Bhagavatam came out and Shukadeva Goswami came and spoke and he went back to Godhead. His time was up. Okay, Sunil Giridhar Maharaja, sometime it comes to mind why sages used to give curse so frequently. They were not able to control anger. Not devotee sages. It's only sages like Durvasa Muni and all of them and many of the others. They got this thing. Also, you see, curse is a form of blessing for some of them. Narada Muni also cursed Manigriva and Nalakuvera. But they were able to get the darshan of the Lord. Many times, Indradyumna Maharaj was cursed by Agastya Muni. But he became Gajendra and he saw the Lord and went back to Godhead. A lot of these curses sometimes are turning out to be very good because they have done something wrong. It's a punishment. And the punishment should normally cure you. And that's what happens. So it's not that the curses are always bad. Some curses are bad because it stops you from material enjoyment. That is bad. But if you're a person who's a devotee, you won't mind that type of a curse. Swarga apavarga narikeshu api tulyartha darshinaha. Lord Shiva is telling his wife, what is the use of you cursing this devotee? Chitraketu was cursed by Parvati because he laughed at the Lord Shiva traveling with keeping Parvati on his lap. He said, see how he is. But he was actually commenting that how a dhira a person he is. But she did not like it. She said, what is this you're saying these things about my husband? But she didn't understand. So she went in for this type of thing that you have done, you should be cursed like this. The time Lord Shiva said, what's the use of cursing a devotee like Chitraketu? You put him in hell, you put him in heaven, he will be happy because he is fixed in Krishna. His consciousness is different. Swarga apavarga narikeshu api tulyartha darshinaha. They don't care about it. Tulyam. They don't care about it because they are absorbed. There is no difference for them in the material world. So many curses are turning to be blessing, actually. Especially curses given by devotees. They don't curse simply out of anger and false ego and lust. Well, some sages also curse like that, and that's had a bad influence and stop your enjoyment, everything. If you're a materially oriented person, it's bad. If you're a spiritually oriented person, if you're a devotee, the curses don't really take effect. Even Narada Muni was cursed by Daksha. It's in Narada Muni in the Bhagavatam, he actually preached to the 10,000 children of Daksha and sent them back to Godhead. Daksha became super angry. You made them all devotees and sent them away? How dare you do that? Right? He was very angry. Then he produced another 1,000 children. Them also he preached to and sent them. He said, your brothers have already gone. What are you doing all these things? Just get messed up in all these things. And he sent them also. I'm making it short. And then he went to see Daksha, Narada Muni, after doing all these things also. He was very bold. Daksha cursed him. He is very furious and wild. And he cursed him and said that, I curse you, you can never remain in one place for more than 2-3 days. So he said, okay. And because of that, he traveled more and preached to more people and more people went back to Godhead. The curse became a blessing. Narada Muni is always traveling everywhere and bringing Krishna consciousness to everybody because of the curse. And because of that, many people are getting service to Krishna. Okay. So that's also possible. Right. Okay. Any other question?
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Yeah.
Actually, I had a question at the beginning of the session, that how people having who are hearing impaired,
How people have
who have hearing problems, who are
hearing
not.
problem. Okay.
So how this is all about Shravana.
Yes.
So I had a question at the beginning of the session. Then during the session, you mentioned that people who have this problem, they also became devotees by way of this sign language and all.
Yes.
I mean, I'm sure it will take a long time than a normal person to get into the.
Well, you see, you must understand one thing, that bhakti is so powerful. It is not in any way restrained by any of these material things so much. The Lord is in everybody's heart, he says. Tesham evanukampartam aham ajnanajam tamaha nashayami atma bhavasto jnana deepena bhasvata. Krishna is saying that I situated in the heart. If the person is not able to do, but he wants to, I situated in their heart will light the shining lamp of knowledge. So when the external physical things are a little difficult, there is not hopeless, because you have a devotional sentiment. So Krishna from within your heart will give you the knowledge. Who is there to stop it if Krishna desires so, especially for his devotees? That's the magic.
So we should be inclined to be in Krishna consciousness, and the rest Krishna will take care.
Yeah, but we must endeavor with whatever we have.
Yes.
It's not that we just give our intention and send it by courier to Krishna and say, I've already told you my intention, the rest you can do. No, you have to act with the faculties that you have, with the facilities you have, and you should be having at least the desire deeply. Then many things Krishna gives facilities to make it happen.
Yes. Thank you, Maharaj.
Because the food that is cooked by the mother for the sake of the child with great affection and love, she can buy the groceries, she can do the cooking, she can put it on a nice plate and put it in the mouth of the child. But the child has to have a desire for tasting it and eating it and swallowing it. If the child spits it out, what can the mother do beyond this? Yeah. So there is an element of your function, your endeavor in it. And that should be there. Then the rest of the facility will work very easily. It is only that which stops the living entity from getting the pure situation. Okay, so by purification that becomes all right. That's why we say, please chant Hare Krishna and start hearing Bhagavad Gita and reading. Gradually the desire will come up in a big way.
Okay.
Right.
Thank you. Thank you, Maharaj.
Hare Krishna, thank you. Okay. How can we handle some situations correctly if the situation is destined? What do you mean by that? Hariharanji, there's so many situations you have. You have Krishna conscious situation. You have, karma situation. So I presume you mean things that you're put into in this world. Well, karma is also a factor, your past life and everything. So for a person who depends on the Lord, then there are many things that can happen wonderfully. And a person who depends on the Lord, he actually getting strength to face the situation, make correct decisions, and under the influence of association of the Guru and everybody, he knows how to handle the situation. Nobody is asking you to do it all alone. You have Krishna's instructions, the Bhagavad Gita. You have other practicing devotees who are senior to you. You have your guru. You have Siksha Guru, Diksha Guru, Vartama Pradarshaka Guru. You have so many agencies Krishna has arranged. You can get benefit from some of them and advise and do the needful. Okay? That's why it's mentioned, Tasmat Gurum Prapadyeta Jignasu Shreya Uttamam. That a person should seek a guru in his life and get these instructions and follow the instruction of the guru and become successful. Right? Hariharanji was the person who asked that question. So, good night to all of you. Thank you. Hare Krishna. May Krishna's blessings be on all of you. Krishna Matirastu. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Good night. Sweet dreams of Krishna. So remember the take home. Hear carefully.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.